Living in a marina shouldn't be perilous, right? But you know what? Guess again.
We've had more than a few scary moments this year, so stay tuned to learn the details of how we, at times, barely escaped harm. You might remember last year's episode, our biggest danger of 2022 was when our boat tried to kill us. So actually, specifically, our batteries were cooking. It was the middle of the night. Thankfully, our alarms went off and we were able to safely evacuate and promptly spend about $7,000 fixing the problem.
Most recently, we had to deal with Hurricane Hillary. Us Californians are not used to getting hurricanes here. It was supposed to come in as a strong tropical storm, but we had to be prepared because it was supposed to hit us pretty hard. So we had to batten down the hatches, get everything secure, and here's a look at that now.
It's just a little bit breezy right now, but in about 24 hours, Hurricane or Tropical Storm Hillary is going to blow right through this town. And where our marina is, we're going to get winds from 3 different directions. The bay, the ocean, and more ocean, which is right over that hill. So we are working hard to batten down the hatches. You can see how prepared. We're actually not going to be staying here out of an abundance of caution and other reasons as well. But there's a lot to do to get ready for the storm.
I'm double tying the lines for extra security.
Our good friend Robert, the fixer, headed over to help us out. Tom and Robert added additional fenders around the boat.
To San Mateo Point, California, including Santa Catalina and Santa Barbara Islands.
We decided the whaler's better in a side tie or a dock, so we're gonna go move it over to 213. We're zipping up and heading out. We battened down all the hatches and secured everything as best we could.
All the Navy ships are heading out to sea. We've been watching them and hearing them all morning. It appears they're literally, every single one is heading out in preparation for Hurricane Hillary.
Okay, here is Hurricane Hillary. Tropical Storm Hillary finally hitting.
Funny, the tropical storm finally hit after we'd given up and come back home.
So Hurricane Hillary was pretty much a non-event, but we had to get ready and be prepared to keep our vessels safe.
And to keep us safe.
And to keep us safe.
So a few months before the hurricane, we had a somewhat serious bee incident. Bee as in buzzing bees. So I'm just down in the boat working, probably on YouTube, and I hear banging on the side of my boat, and it was a mechanic who was working on the boat next door, power trip. And he said, bees, bees, shut your doors, because all my doors were open. So I go and I look out my side door, and there are thousands of bees buzzing between our 2 boats. It was rather alarming. So
what's the mechanic doing? Bees, bees, killer bees, run for your life. That was
pretty much.
That was Tommy Boy.
Bees! Bees! Bees in the car! Bees everywhere!
Something like
For
that.
those of you that know Tommy Boy.
Something like that. So I shut the doors and I called our dock master, and he said, well, you know, normally these bees will land and then they'll relocate pretty quickly, but it sounds like there's a lot of bees. So he decided to call a bee removal company. So meanwhile, our own mechanic was coming over to work on the boat, and I texted him. I said, by the way, there's a lot of bees. And around this time, all the bees had landed on, what do you call that box? Is that an electrical box?
Uh-huh.
All these bees landed on this box. So our mechanic believe it or not, used to be a beekeeper. And he said to me, I'm not coming aboard your boat. I'm not going to walk by the bees with my equipment because it will unsettle them. But then he was just fascinated. He's looking for the queen bee. These bees are all buzzing around his head and completely unfazing him. So bottom line is, I had to leave and go somewhere. It was really intimidating to walk by the box of bees. Literally, I think the beekeeper eventually determined that there were around 6,000 bees.
You had to be careful, for sure.
So the beekeeper, not the beekeeper, the bee removal company came and they brought a box. Apparently,
And a vacuum.
the bee removal guy was allergic to bees.
They vacuum up the bees.
Yeah, well, first he scoops them all into a box, and then he vacuums the remnant, and then they don't just kill the bees for all the bee lovers, and we're bee lovers. Yeah, they relocate the bees. And so basically, he told me we were left with about 50 bees. It seemed like a lot more than 50. And here was my take on it after the bee removal. The beekeeper has come and gone. He said there were about 50 bees left behind. Seems like it might be more than that to me, but I don't know if these are the dumb bees who don't realize their queen is gone. I don't know what's gonna happen to these people. You know, they don't have a leader anymore. I guess I'll have to read about that, but it's been sort of an interesting experience to say the least. I don't know why I'm laughing.
Another near-death experience.
By far, the most alarming thing that has ever happened to either of us in our 7 years of boating happened earlier this year. And honestly, it took a long time for me to really even be able to talk about it because it was so
traumatic.
Alarming and very traumatic. Yes, very traumatic. So basically, last February, my friend invited me over along with other ladies in the marina to an amazing crab dinner. And it was just at the boat, catty corner to our boat. And we had a great dinner. It was a really fun evening. But this happened to be this other random weather weekend in San Diego. We were supposed to get a blizzard in California. Now, we don't get snow in California.
Blizzard.
It was extreme weather. I mean, in the mountains near San Diego, people were trapped for days. It really was a big weather event. And it was raining sideways, wind is blowing, it's late February. And at some point in the evening, Tom texted me and said, I'm going to bed, be careful on your way home. And I shared that with all my friends because I thought it was really funny because I only had to walk across the dock to get home.
But it was raining sideways, so
It was.
you know, everything's
Really bad
slippery
weather.
and- yeah.
It was really bad weather, and unfortunately, I did not heed his advice. And so later on in the evening, I headed over to our boat, and I don't, to this day, I don't know exactly what happened, but I fell in between our boat and the dock. And
After climbing the stairs to get on the boat.
yeah, the water was freezing cold. I had on biker boots and a jacket and jeans and just a lot of heavy clothes, and I just fell in and came up, and then...
Well, luckily, I'm not always a light sleeper, but I am pretty much a light sleeper, and I heard the noise outside the window.
I want to point one thing out, but for God, thank you God. Where I fell in was literally the closest place I could possibly fall in near the nearest window to his side of the boat.
Well, the other thank you God was that you didn't hit your head going
Yes.
in, or that it was somehow a clean between the boat and the dock. You went
Yes.
perfectly down between the two without banging yourself on the way down. Head, legs, anything could have happened, right?
Literally, when my head came back to the surface, before I could even formulate a plan of what to do next, my husband was there to rescue me.
So I, ran out of bed, and obviously I saw Andrea immediately in the water. She wasn't even talking, saying anything. She was completely stunned and silent. So I just grabbed her. It took a lot to lift her out of the water, like anybody would. She's not heavy. I don't want to get that wrong, but to lift somebody from, the water line onto the dock, and she was all slippery and wet, obviously, but it obviously got her out. But the other problematic thing was the wind and everything pushing the boat between Andrea and the dock. So you had the boat, the dock, and Andrea in between. So we had to fend off the boat and then get Andrea up as soon as possible. It was pretty traumatic. It was shocked as well.
Beyond traumatic. That's why you haven't heard about it before now. Beyond traumatic.
That's why I think you don't remember anything, because when she went in that water, it was like, yeah. It
was a shock, and honestly, I was in pain for months. Not because I hit any body part, but it's like the emotional and physical shock of hitting the water in February at night. I don't know how to describe it other than it just jolted my body in such a way that I was in extreme pain for 3 months. It was a long recovery period, and I just want to say my handsome husband, with whom I've been married 36 years, he has worked out for 36 years. And this is the day
Although you can't tell.
No, you can't. And this was the day where I was the most thankful that I'm married to a man with strength, because, you know, the water level is well below the dock level. And to pull out a soaking, wet, slippery human in the dead of night just wasn't an easy thing. So we're super thankful that I survived that. I could have easily not.
So just a quick lesson on if you ever fall in the water. We've talked about this. The best way to get out, if somebody doesn't hear you, is to go to another boat or your own boat and deploy the swim step. Hopefully swim step is already deployed. A lot of marinas have ladders to get out, but a lot don't. Most, I would say, do not. So always go to the back of another boat and try to find the swim step to pull yourself out, or at the very least, hang on to something that you can. Go to a swim step, hang on, and scream for help. Would be the other thing to do, or both.
And you know, I think what's really important is to have that discussion in your marina. Have that discussion, because what if Tom hadn't heard me fall in? What was I to do? Again, I wasn't even able to formulate a single thought before this man saved me. But it's important to take into consideration where your boat is, where your marina is, and what would your plan be in case of that kind of accident. Now, I realized there was no fun B-roll to go along with this story. There was no filming going on.
I should have grabbed my camera. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah. But yeah, it was scary, and I'm glad I could finally share it with y'all. And hopefully, you know, you'll have your own plan. So if this, God forbid, ever happens to you, you'll have a way to get out. So we're curious, have you had your own dangerous moments, perilous marina living? If so, share it in the comments below, because we want to share the wealth. We all want to share our experiences so that we can avoid potential disaster in the future.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us, and we'll see y'all soon.